You're listening to audio from the Decidedly podcast. For more information, find us on Instagram at Decidedly Podcast.
I used to always, whenever I was little, for some reason, I used to think that you would be a good governor.
Oh, yeah? You thought I would be a good governor?
You don't remember talking about that?
No.
Well, whenever I was really young, like sometimes we would drive to Dallas to go to the Stars games.
Okay.
Right. We still do that. But whenever I was little, you would have talk radio on, and that was my only exposure to politics. And so I would ask you questions like, "Oh man, why is what is he talking about the Federal Reserve or whatever it was, that they were discussing on the radio show." And so we would have these conversations about things, about current events and about politics. And for a few years, mostly elementary, middle school, it was like that was my only exposure to politics. And I thought you knew everything.
Well,
and then I grew up.
And then you learned better, right?
Yeah.
I was in my closest to that was being in student senate at Texas A&M, and the experience of the legislative process, even though that was a student organization, was just mind-numbing to me. It moved so slow. There were so many. I think the process of becoming governor would just be such an ass whipping that I think God bless the people who are cut out to go into politics and move up. But there's a lot of administrative, there's a lot of relationship skills that I just don't think I have. I think most people don't have, but it's really tough. So God bless the people who do and have enough passion to take those skills and use them for public service. And so I'm gonna
quote that on our website, or it'll be more of a paraphrase, but I'm gonna say, I would be governor, but it's just not fun enough. Sean Smith. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I could run this place, but nah.
Nah, you got other things to do. Yeah, it's interesting. The decision-making process for legislatively is long and arduous.
Oh, and just the horse trading that goes on, and just the political calculus of if we give on this, we can take on this, or I'm not gonna vote for this, but so it doesn't blow back on me, or all of that stuff just doesn't feel good to me. It just runs against some of my core. I could not do it.
It's not exactly, the political arena is not known for its authenticity, but speaking of authenticity, we got to talk to someone who's very authentic today, and that is Kendall Qualls. And you actually first met Kendall, 30
years ago? I sent Kendall a picture this morning, and I went and found it from 30 years ago, he and I standing out in front of the Alamo. And so I sent him that picture this morning. He was like, "Wow, look at me! I had hair."
So Kendall is currently running for the Republican primary race for Minnesota's governor. How did you and Kendall meet?
So he and I both worked for American Express at the time, that had a subsidiary company, financial planning, called IDS, and so he and I were both there at the same time, starting out our careers. He moved on and moved into the medical field after that, but I stayed in financial advisory services, and but yeah, he and I were friends, and but haven't talked to each other a lot in the past several years up until recently.
Well, yeah, as soon as you found out he was running for governor, you wanted to cash in on all those favors.
Well, no, it's funny. I was watching. Yeah, I was watching.
Hey man,
one
now
of
that
the
you have
news
some
shows.
power, remember that one time I bought you lunch in San Antonio at the conference?
I was watching. We reconnected because years ago. This tells you how long ago it was. I had Bill O'Reilly on on TV, and it was on at the house. And I was watching that, and
this is pre-sex scandal Bill O'Reilly, right?
Obviously.
Okay, just clarifying. He's still out there.
No, wait, is he?
Yeah, he has some show on American Patriot Hardcore Conservative News.com.
Yeah.
Or something.
Okay. So this is when he was on Fox, and so he reads a letter from Kendall Qualls, and I'm like, well, that's got to be my friend Kendall. There can't be a lot of guys named Kendall Qualls out there. So I reached out to him and said, hey man, saw O'Reilly. So we reconnected, but that was a while back. But that's how that came. And I've seen him on different news shows recently talking about things that he's passionate around. He ran for Congress, but around education issues, critical race theory, minimum wage. He's been out there, voicing his opinion on a lot of content.
Well, after you and Kendall worked together, he moved on to the medical industry, or the healthcare industry rather, was global vice president marketing at Medtronic and Covidien. In addition to Medtronic, Kendall had increasing roles of responsibility in marketing and sales in both biopharma and medtech companies like Johnson & Johnson. Before he entered the healthcare industry, he served as an officer in the U.S. Army, and he was stationed in the U.S. and South Korea. He has an MBA from the University of Michigan, a Master of Arts degree from the University of Oklahoma, and a bachelor's from Cameron University. Today we got to talk to Kendall about decision-making and about his race for the governorship in Minnesota. I'm Sanger Smith with Sean Smith. This is Decidedly.
How did you move into politics? I mean, that's a big jump, running for governor of Minnesota. How did you move from where you were into that?
What's amazing, God plans for you. You don't even know it when it's even like He's orchestrating it 30 years, previously. Obviously, my experience marketing and sales and in the business community in the healthcare industry. Well, I left Medtronic, went to a startup in healthcare here in Minnesota, and we had got the startup into the pilot phase with a major insurance company and another healthcare plan, and it was kind of working its way through the pilot, and Ilhan Omar's district is right next to mine. Okay. And as you know, I served in the military. My father served, and the things that she was saying just first of all, it was dangerous. But when she compared ISIS and Al Qaeda to the U.S. Army, I said, you know what? Someone's got to do something. I don't see leaders stepping up to the plate, and I felt obligated, to be honest with you, to do something. So I contacted the local GOP, said, I'll speak for you anywhere in the state if you want, and I eventually spoke to one of the leaders of the House, and he invited me to be a candidate, and I accepted.
So you've got to be a really good speaker, I would imagine, to go from, hey, I'm just some guy, to, hey, would you like to run?
Well, it's interesting. So over the course of my career, I've been on the stage all the time in front of the sales organization, the marketing organization, corporate leaders, the presidents of major companies. And it's prepared me to do this. So it's really kind of secondhand, and I've gotten people to say, you know what, you've missed your calling. And to the point where I am now, it's really secondhand for me.
How did you go through to decide to run for governor? Not why did you run for governor? What caused you to run for governor?
So it's two-pronged. Number one, so Sean, when you and I met, I had just gotten out of the Army and earned 2 master's degrees, but you didn't know my background. So I came from literally nothing. My parents divorced when my dad came back from the Vietnam War. We moved from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to Harlem, New York in the late 1960s, early 70s. It was the epicenter for gangs, drugs, violence, and everything else. I was there from first grade to fifth grade. and I saw how deprived, mankind can be in the inner cities. My mom couldn't handle all 5 of us by herself, so my father came and got me and my younger brother to live with him in Oklahoma, and he was in a trailer park because that's all he could afford. So that was my start in life, and the fact that I could earn an education, serve our country in the Army, get an advanced, undergrad, graduate degree, all that, and then go and work for a company for example, like IDS. When I left people's homes and I had clients, and they gave me a check for financial planning for $300, no one in my family ever believed that a black man could walk into a white man's house and leave with a $300 check and planning for their financial future. That didn't even come into their mindset. So what I've learned over the course of this 30 years is that how great this country is, and how the people of this country are good-hearted people, and that the narratives that we hear often are lies. And I felt obligated to step forward and represent the country for what it is, based on all the people that helped me in my personal and my professional career. It was a leadership decision of a patriot that loves his country. And it sounds hokey, sounds kind of Boy Scoutish, but this country was saved, but not by career politicians, by Harvard, Princeton, Yale lawyers. It was saved by regular Americans that love the country.
Yeah, making a decision to live up to kind of answer the call of leadership, I think is really hard, right? It's oftentimes really unrewarding, and being a politician seems like the least rewarding version of leadership that you could possibly receive. As far as public image, as far as getting people to say thank you, most leaders don't get told thank you ever. Politicians rarely get told thank you. Some people would argue they rarely deserve it, right? But that's okay. So I would imagine that making that decision, what was really, really had to be very thoughtful.
Well, it was. So the other half of this is my Christian faith. So it's funny. I became a Christian when I was 27 years old in Dallas when I was there working with you guys. And someone had invited me to church. I didn't want to go because many of the churches that I grew up in was, it was ceremonial more than anything, ceremonial and social. But it was Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. Tony Evans was the pastor, and it literally changed my life. So it was our faith decision as well. If this was a God-led decision for me and my wife, and so it was one of those other things too. It's like walk in obedience. And for those that are the Christians, they understand it. For those that don't, they'll think it's pretty a wacky decision. But when you walk in obedience and you do those things, it's going to come with hard knocks. So it's something I'm used to.
So your candidacy seems to be centered around several different key positions, and I don't attempt to reduce your candidacy only to these positions, but I see kind of a theme, right? You have some strong opinions on minimum wage. You have some strong opinions on critical race theory, and those are obviously more so with critical race theory. Those are very hot topics now, and it seems to me that both of them stem from a way that we as individuals make decisions, right? We make decisions as individuals in how we accept critical race theory as far as like how we view the world from the very beginning. What is our worldview? How are we going to decide to operate within this world? What's your advice to Americans or Minnesotans on how to defeat bad decision making with respect to those policy positions that you've taken a hard stance on?
Sure. So actually, your show is a really good one because oftentimes people make decisions unconsciously. They don't even realize how many decisions they're making that affect their choices in life. And whether even if they're unconsciously not making a decision, they're just going with the flow of their neighbors, their friends, and that type of thing. Which I've been swimming upstream my entire life, so this has kind of come natural to me. Our platform is really around 3 things. Number one, we need to return our city and our communities back to the safety that what Forbes magazine called Minnesota and the Twin Cities the safest city in the country. We were never a Detroit, we were never a Chicago, and now We have record carjackings, record crime.